Hello everybody, welcome back. This is just going to be a short video while I'm working on some other projects, but I thought this was interesting. I was playing Arc Raiders and I was looking at the in-game map, and I was wondering, we already know this game takes place in Italy because of the Italian that's plastered everywhere. And I thought, I wonder if I can find where this is, or maybe it's a completely fictional place. So I started looking around at the map, and one of the big things is a volcano right here. And Italy has a couple volcanoes, the most famous being Mount Vesuvius. So first I was like, okay, let me look at Mount Vesuvius and see if there's things that match up. So Mount Vesuvius is over here, right here, Pompeii. So you can see the volcano right here, and to be honest, volcanoes all look pretty similar. You know, it's a big circle, but we can see the volcano makes sense, right? We have it right here. But what I looked for is things around it. So buried city, there's a city right here. Well, yeah, there's Naples and all the little sub-neighborhoods, sub-cities, I don't know what you would call them. Like here, Circola right here. I mean, that kind of makes sense for buried city, and there's like a coastline. So this kind of makes sense. And then you have the Acera spaceport, which, while there's not a spaceport here, a side note too, I do want to mention, while the Acera spaceport does not exist, there is a city located outside of Naples called Acera, same spelling and everything. So that definitely does lean more in credence to it being Mount Vesuvius. But for me, still, I lean into it's probably a combination of Etna and Vesuvius. The Alcantara River is named word for word. It's in a decent location to match up with the in-game map. But Acera is almost perfectly lined up with the spaceport. And it makes sense if we look right here. Acera would be about right here, and you would go and build the spaceport outside of the city. So it would make sense, and maybe the city here got destroyed somehow. And then buried city would line up with just one of these places. Maybe like this place right here. I'm not going to pronounce it, but one of these places. I have looked around for like hospitals or something that would match up perfectly to Berry City's hospital location along with the space admin building, but I haven't found anything. So one thing I will say, why I think it's a combination more than anything, there's not really a ridge line that lines up. If you rotate the image to get these mountains kind of in a similar space, all of a sudden buried city and the spaceport don't line up. One of the things I was curious about, though, is dam battlegrounds. And the problem is there's not really a dam here. So I thought, okay, well, we'll keep this in mind. Mount Vesuvius, it's very famous. So there's a good chance they used it or was at least inspired. So I was looking around at other places and other volcanoes, and I saw this one down here in Sicily, which is Etna. And I thought, okay, we'll look at this one. And see, line the coast up. And my assumption is being that this takes place where there was an exodus, where all the rich left the planet. So there was some kind of cataclysm. So we might be looking at some kind of ice cap melting where the sea levels rose or something, which an island like Sicily would be very susceptible to disappearing under the sea when sea levels rise. So I look here and I go, look at Etna, and we look, imagine if this is now the coastline. The interesting thing for Etna, and the reason why I think this is at least one of the main inspirations, is because if you look down here at the coastline, matches up fairly well. And then you just imagine this is kind of shrunk. We're looking at Buried City. There's a city right here called Bronte, I'm assuming. And then there's also this one over here, Adrano. And these kind of line up. Obviously, I'm sure the scaling is just off. I don't think that was really a concern. And I'm really not 100% sure this is a one-to-one of a real-life place. However, the interesting thing about this is there's empty space. There's no spaceport. But like I said, the Acera spaceport is 100% fictional. It does not exist. Doesn't exist at all. One interesting thing, though, is there is a river running all right here. And of course, you need a river for a dam. What's interesting is you can see this right here. This region is labeled Alcantara. Well, the interesting thing is this river, I'm pretty sure, is called the Alcantara River. Or maybe it's this one. Yes. See? This is the Alcantara River. And it would make sense that with rising sea levels over the course of 150 years, I think by the time of the Exodus it was 2150 or so. I might be wrong about that. But by that time, if sea levels rose, there's a good chance that the river would widen. So I think there really is potential for this right here being the Etna volcano, Buried City being one of the cities surrounding the volcano in the national park, and Dam Battlegrounds lining up to be somewhere around here. Now, of course, Toledo is underground. As far as I know, I think it's implied to be underground, or at least it's hidden in a little area. I guess the map kind of shows it not being underground, or at least partially visible from space. But the interesting thing with this is where we have the Rust Belt Ridge. And if we go here to the layers and turn on the terrain, we can see right here, volcano, the river, the Alcantara. There is a large amount of mountains right here that looks like a ridge line. So while it doesn't curve as much as it does in real life, or at least we can't visibly see the curve, this is definitely a case for a very likely match or inspiration for the map. Like I said, I really don't think it's a one-to-one to any real location on Earth, but I think that if there was a location that really inspired it, it was going to be this one right here. Just want to touch on too, Blue Gate, Stella Montes. Blue Gate, it's a fictional location. There's nothing here other than small tourist attractions. There's really not much other than that. So that's a fictional location. Of course, Stella Montes is completely fictional. It's also underground. So I want to touch on a couple things that I looked up as well. Decimar, this just means decimate, which I'm assuming is just nothing over here. This right here, La Cartiera, it means paper mill, which I don't understand, as this is clearly an ocean. And there's a couple other places down here, which this is another thing I want to touch on, is Calabretta. If you look up Calabretta, the Calabretan coast is in southern Italy. There's this right here, the Calabretta winery, but it is right here at Etna. So in this alternate timeline, maybe this sea right here is called Calabretta. This is honestly quite a stretch. However, there is a location called Calabria right here. So it's similar, but not an exact match. So when it comes to this really isn't a surefire anything. Honestly, none of this is surefire. But the Alcantara is one of the things that really lines up really well with the Alcantara River. And then there being a ridge right here, along with a volcano and a city. I think it just matches up the best. If anyone sees this video and lives in Sicily, be careful. There might be killer robots flying around. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I just thought it was really interesting, and I wouldn't have made it until I found this, and I thought to myself, I was like, this is really close, at least. There's some potential here. There's some things in games where you look and you're like, I can't find any place that looks like it. Also, shout out to Arma 3. You ever played Altus? Yeah, it's just straight up this island ripped, and this is just Stratus. So, the fun fact for a completely irrelevant game. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching, and I am going to be uploading a couple more videos in the coming weeks. Just be out for that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it, subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one.